Good day from the Ivory Tower Collections lab. Specifically, this is the test bench area. And I'm here today because I wanted to show you the new 7800 profile for Lumacode on the RGB to HDMI setup. Specifically, this new profile allows for auto switching between 7800 and 2600 games pretty much on the fly. So I have here an actual 7800 console that's been fitted with Lumacode and a 2600 Junior that's also been set up with Lumacode. I currently have my 7800 game drive loaded up in the 7800, and I've got a Harmony cartridge Encore in the Junior. Now, what I'm going to show you first is the fact that the 7800 mode is just working. So let me go ahead and power on this console. So I'm loading up the 7800 game drive. And here we are looking at my 2600 menu currently. But in order for the game drive to present you with the menu, it has to be in 7800 mode. And I can show you this because if I go into the current main menu settings, we can see that the current profile selected right here says 7800 2600 Lumacode, and then the sub-profile currently in use is the Maria 263 profile. So let me just exit out of that. And I'll load up a 2600 game here, like, I don't know, Laser Gates. Here we are. And we can see it just fine. And it came right up. There was basically no pause to speak of. And if we take a look at the profile settings again, we can see that now the profile is still using the 7800 2600 profile, but now the sub-profile says it's using TIA 262. So that's how we can tell that it is, in fact, auto-switching. But one of the caveats of this particular setup is that a lot of 2600 games, due to the way they were programmed, will cause weird dropout issues on other scalers and even with a UAV when used on something like a RetroTink 2X or a 2X Pro. Now, there are corrected binaries that help fix this for some of these games, but in the case of Lumacode, it also suffers from these issues. So let me go ahead and replace the cartridge out. In this case, I'm putting in my 2600 Uno cart. And it took a second there. You saw that it first came up looking a little strange, but then it came up looking fine. And again, that's just the profile. That's the RGB to HDMI locking in. So if we take a look at the SD card setup here, we can see that it is switching over and working just fine because here is Casey's Gold, which is a 2600 game. But now if I power this back off and pop in an actual Ball Blazer cartridge, we will see that it immediately switches back over and we are back up in 7800 mode once again. No problems. Now, the one caveat that I need to talk about is that those games with the strange scanline counts will still cause problems for the RGB to HDMI. So as an example, I'm going to bring up the 7800 game drive again. And this time I'm going to use the game Buck Rogers as an example because this one's really bad. Actually, you know what? Let's just use Moon Patrol. It won't look quite as bad, but you'll still get the same effect. So Moon Patrol looks okay, but on the title screen, you'll see that it's constantly blinking in and out. And that's because the title screen for Moon Patrol is one of the games that's using weird scanline counts in its programming that TVs are fine with, but some of the scalers do not like this. And as you can see, Lumacode doesn't like it either. So in these instances, it will still be required to have to go in and manually select the specific 2600 Lumacode with no gen lock option. And now when I select this, we can see that the title screen is stable without any issues. So there are going to be certain instances where the auto switching isn't going to be able to account for those games that have the strange scanline counts, and you'll have to still manually use the gen lock profile on its own for those particular games. But again, that should only apply to the 2600 side of things. Now, another thing that's pretty cool about this is, let me go ahead and pop in Ball Blazer once again. Okay, there we are. Now I'm back to the combination 7800-2600 profile. And everything's fine. Now here's the cool part. I'm going to take out Ball Blazer. And again, I have a Harmony cartridge loaded into this 2600. I'm going to disconnect the Lumacode from off of the 7800. I apologize, I'm trying to do this with one hand. There we go. I've got it now plugged into the 2600. Now this is still using the combination 7800-2600 profile, and it was last on the Maria sub profile. But when I go ahead and turn on this 2600, there's the Harmony menu, came right up. So yeah, essentially you could just plug this into a 2600 as it is, and the same profile will also work on 2600s. But again, you got to keep in mind that those games with odd scanline counts are going to be problematic, and it would still require having to manually use the no Genlock profile. So that's pretty much it for this quick demonstration of this new 7800 profile for Lumacode. It's pretty cool. It should make playing a whole lot of the games a whole lot easier and less cumbersome because you don't have to switch the profiles back and forth as much. I will have the file for the new profile pasted in my Atari Age notification for this on Facebook. Just reach out to me and I'll be happy to email the new profile over to you along with a basic set of instructions on how to get it copied over to the SD card for your RGB to HDMI converter. So, thanks again for hanging out with me here at the Ivory Tower Collections. I do apologize for the crude phone camera work today, but it was just easier to use that to switch back and forth. Thanks.